government ordinances, and there was another one brought up tonight. There's a lengthy list, and we're gonna try to whittle it down. Also, Public Works met with the Public Works Director and the attorney for a correction plan for unaccepted roads. There was a criteria, we discussed the criteria. We came to the conclusion that there were certain roads.
There's a current agenda item you'd like to speak to, now would be the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, Councilors Patrick Wood, Ward 3. Two things. One, I know the Housing Authority has been working with the Homelessness Task Force, and we're very much on board in trying to find a way to ease that transition from homelessness to sheltered. So the Housing Authority is very much participating in this as well. The second thing is, when we were talking about Pumpkin Fest and having a separate committee, just a couple of suggestions. Back when we had our centennial event, private people putting together, under the auspices of the city, an event that handled many, many days, major events throughout the year of 1993, well, with city financing, so that can be done. Also, the Human Relations Committee has historically done a number of things, such as the Martin Luther King celebration that we had just a couple of weeks ago. So there is a precedent for doing these things under the auspices of the city. So I would ask you to consider that when you're focusing on what to do with the Pumpkin Fest.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to matters on tonight's, on current agenda items, excuse me? Okay, moving along, agenda item 20, City Manager's Report, and turn it over to Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included in your packet tonight, your financial and operational trends. The net value construction permits, I don't have included in here tonight. I will say that we are working on the net number, but gross building construction is in line within probably $100,000 where it was last year. So we're doing really well with our building construction this year, and we'll have those updated numbers shortly.
Which was where, I'm sorry?
We're at gross right now. We're at 63 million. Okay. So once we do our deductions, it should put us right back to where we were last year. So
Gotcha.
we're doing well.
Thank you.
Fire rescue calls are there. You'll notice that for the last couple of months, they've been missing some numbers. They had a new software system about a year-ish ago. They've been having issues with the software system at the software level, at the company level. So they're working on that. Chief Jubert's been working on getting that adjusted. So hopefully they can have that taken care of sooner than later. Big number for public assistance data this year. This month, we did over 13,000. We did talk last month, that a lot of that was our recurring patient, people who we have in the system all the time. This was a lot of new requests of service in this month, so that's where that big spike was.
Could I stop you just there for a second? When you say new requests, people who aren't frequenting the welfare department, are they new to the city? Can you give any drill down on any of that data?
A little bit of both, I would say. They're
Say, in our world, when you say new, that means we weren't assisting them last month. So these are new to the welfare office. Many of them, of course, are people who have been in Laconia for a long time, just that they're now new cases on our workload that weren't there last month. As opposed, we've seen an increase in the number of clients that are on the caseload for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And that's been keeping the numbers high, but there's a lot of new folks coming on board, new applications being filed.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. Our budget for that is only 60,000. We are looking to increase it for next year, and we do have money in reserve if we end up in an overage for this month, this year. Police department activity is there, staying busy, no real outliers. Property tax collection is on pace where it should be. Overtime We did see some spikes again, some of it related to, as I say, you've heard me say this before, you see the increase in overtime, especially with police and fire, as if their staffing levels wane, if they have vacancies. Fire department is at full staffing right now, so you will see some of those decrease, and PD is adjusting as they need to with their vacancies that they currently have. Next page, motor vehicle registration, again, is where we would expect it to be this year. Parks and Rec has their normal facility use. We do have 2 grievances that we're working through right now. One of them was on a callback procedure during some plowing and some overtime. I'm working with I have sent my reply back to the union. They haven't replied to me as to whether or not they accepted that reply, so I don't have an answer to that yet. But there's currently no cost. If there is a cost related, it will be a relatively low dollar figure, so it's nothing that we're too concerned about. The other one is there's no exact date on it. This is actually a grievance through fire that we've been working on for a number of years now. There was I was in my other position when this first started. It got put by the wayside at some point, and so we reevaluated it. It's how they accrue sick and vacation time in the way that we were doing it and the way that their contract reads. There was a discrepancy in that, and again, they have a reply from me. I'm waiting to hear back from them on their acceptance of my no current cost on that either at this point. Impact fees. This is a new form. We always show impact fees, but this has an encumbered number in there now, so you'll see what you've approved. I always say every month, you've approved some money, just haven't shown up yet. Now you can see what you've been approving in that file. No changes in the fund balances other than what we would expect in normal. Code statistics are there. They're staying relatively steady between this year and last year for January. Again, one of the things that we're working on with them, and now that we've switched over in the code and planning departments have separated and they can focus on their individual departments a little bit more. Again, we're trying to get out, being a little bit more proactive in what we get out for the housing complaints. And we're also finding that by doing that, not only proactive, but by splitting, we've been seeing them be able to be a little bit more expedient in dealing with issues. Boat taxes, where we would expect them to be this type of year. Same thing with revenue and expenditures. The EMS billing report is on there. Not going to go through it all tonight. I did say that we would get Chief Joubert to come in and do a presentation, an update on that, and I'm planning on that for the February 26th meeting, so we can go over it a little bit more in depth and talk about it. Public Works on the last page, not anything outstanding in there. Winter maintenance outside contracts and their overtime lines are all, they're being expended, but we do have some other revenue if we need to fill in for any of the overtime or the outside contractors, so nothing that we need to be concerned about.
Any questions for the city manager?
Just one quick one.
Please.
Mr. Manager, under the impact fees, I read recently that we're required to return them if they're not expended in 6 years. I think it was 6 years.
Yeah, and we are aware of that, and we do keep up with the dates of when they started to be brought in and when they have to be expended by.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Under storm cost, that's a budget line.
Yes.
How are we doing to budget?
Well, you'll see on the last line of that, you'll see where we stand compared to what we had. So for the maintenance and the outside contracts, I'm comfortable with where we stand. We'll see the overtime probably be expended.
Oh, I see
But
it
we do have other opportunities to take care of those shortfalls.
I see it now.
Yep.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's a separate chart.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions for the city manager? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to move on to agenda item 21, new business. I'd like to pull forward item number 21E, resolution 2024-06, acceptance of unanticipated funds from the Grace C. Smith Revocable Trust. Kirk, could you lead us through that just a bit?
I'd be glad to, and we do have representatives from the trust as well here with us tonight. This was Grace Smith was a resident of Laconia who left in her will money to be used to help those in need within the city, and it was specifically granted to the Laconia Police and Fire Departments. The fire department would be for those people who use the ambulance service that the city provides, city residents who have insurance but can't pay their copay. And instead of either us writing it off or them being sent to collections and all that, we would have an opportunity to be able to pay for that for them. The police department also was trusted some money, and that would be used for the benefit of children and their families in need of food, sheltering, and clothing. So we know that people come forward quite often looking for those types of supports, and this would give an opportunity to do that. So as part of our ordinances, we have to accept this money, we have to have a public hearing, and accept the money. If all that goes through during the meeting, at next month's meeting, we will also have a policy in place. I've been working with Glenn and the two chiefs on what a policy would look like for the city for not only the acceptance of the money, but the how it would be divvied out as needed and what the process would look like. We don't have it for you tonight. We'll have it for you ahead of the public hearing on, if you approve it, to go to a public hearing at the end of the month.
Terrific. John, would you like to share anything with us tonight? I would. You've been so patient and...
My name is John McGonigal, and I'm from afar, over in Guilford. Ms. Dahms, Mr. Mayor, councilors, this lady, Grace Smith, called me in April of 2021. She wanted a ride to Mary Hitchcock Hospital. I said, sure, just give me the date, time. Never heard from her. In late August of that year, I was playing golf and I got a call from the hospital that Mrs. Smith is in the ER, she'd like to see you because you have her power of attorney. Never met her. So, I said, okay, so I called the attorney that also had called me, and he said, yes, I have all the papers prepared. I went into the ER, I saw her. The next day, I saw her upstairs. 3 days later, I saw her in Concord Hospice an hour before she died. So I'm sitting with her entire estate. So it's been a year and a half almost, and she has given a substantial amount of money to the city. So I'm here to find out, well, I'm gonna write 2 checks because I have most of it in cash. And then we have an investment portfolio that I wanna know whether I can just cash it in and give you the cash, or you wanna carry it forward. That's something that you'll have to decide.
Okay. Wow.
Her cash is $250,000, and portfolio is $57,000. So it's $300,000 plus or minus.
Terrific. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing an extraordinary story. Huh?
It is. I thought it was anyway.
Okay, so we have a series of 3 motions here. The first is a motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-06 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move first reading of Resolution 2024-06 relative to acceptance of unanticipated funds from the Grace C. Smith Revocable Trust. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Susi. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on February 26, 2024, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action being taken relative to Resolution 2024-06, acceptance of unanticipated funds from from the Grace C. Smith Revocable Trust. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. That was 21E, now off our agenda. Let's go back to agenda item 21A, request to authorize the city manager to apply and accept an Invest NH demolition grant. A request from Lakes Region Community Developers has been received requesting the city to apply for an Invest NH demo grant in an amount up to $50,000 for the demolition work that is needed to convert 11 Jameson Street from a single-family residence into a 3-unit supportive housing building. The grant must be applied for by the local municipality. The conversion was approved at the December 5th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. So, once again, there's a series of 3 motions. The first is to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-02 in its entirety to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, we're looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2024-02 regarding a request to authorize the city manager to apply for and accept an Invest NH demolition grant for an amount up to $50,000 for 11 Jameson Street demolition work. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on February 26, 2024. During the regular city council meeting regarding Resolution 2024-02, a request to authorize the city manager to apply for and accept an Invest NH demolition grant for an amount up to $50,000 for 11 Jameson Street demolition work. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving right along now, 21B, Community Development Block Grant Request to schedule 2 public hearings. Kirk, can you just touch on these briefly?
Yep, one will be, needs a public hearing because the original CDBG grant for 11 Jameson Street was to renovate the single unit. That now, with the change over to a 3-unit, it's already gone through the planning and zoning. But to go through CDBG, they need to see an updated acceptance by you guys. So it needs another public hearing and pass through. So that's one. And the second one, as part of their requirements through CDBG, they need to give you guys project updates, which actually have to be posted as a public hearing, and that's for the Boys and Girls Club project that they've already been working on. So we're just looking for 2 public hearings for those 2 issues.
Thank you very much. Moving right along here to agenda item 21B, it's just 2 motions we're looking to make here. The first is to move to schedule a public hearing on February 26, 2024, during the regular city council meeting regarding the process of and a proposed change to the Lakes Region Community Developers CDBG project relative to the 11 Jameson Street property as presented. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. Motion passes. We're looking to move, a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on February 26, 2024, during the regular city council meeting regarding the progress of the Boys and Girls Club CDBG Energy Improvement Project at 876 North Main Street as presented. So made by Counselor Bogert, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Item 21C, which is a request for approval of a New Hampshire DOT project agreement for the Academy Street Bridge due to a funding source change. You want to touch on that? You know a lot more about that than I do.
I'll say I know a little bit more about this one. This is one we've been working on for a while, and Wes is here if you have any other questions. So the Academy Street Bridge project is a project that's been being funded by the council and worked on for many years now. They did have a funding source change, but also in that the state changed the acceptance of their forms for the representative from the community to be able to sign. So I need something that says, even though this was apparently never done in the past on this, that allows me to sign these documents so we can move this project forward. Like we do with everything now, but this one didn't have that, and this will give me that official minutes acceptance that allows me to go ahead and do this.
Terrific. So accordingly, we're looking for a motion to move that the city council approve the new project agreement for the Academy Street Bridge and authorize the city manager to sign the new project agreement for NHDOT project number 26706. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Bogert. Is there any further discussion of this? Counselor Haynes?
Yes, thank you. Kirk, I would just hope that this has nothing to do with the project, but it will definitely have. We need to make sure that a traffic pattern has been established and people are well aware so that we do not have the problem that we had on Court Street.
Understood, we'll take care of that,
All right,
yes.
thank you.
We should have learned some hard lessons on that.
Yes.
About,
Well, my phone number's public.
it's almost as if we need to do excessive outreach, what might appear to be excessive outreach, to make sure people are completely and fully aware of what's happening, to interrupt their business or their life.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 21D, which is a request for council approval of Gail Ober as the planning board's representative of the Conservation Commission. The planning board, the January 24th, 24 planning board hearing, the board approved naming Gail Ober as a representative on the Conservation Commission. This appointment requires city council approval. Ms. Ober's term on the board's, as the board's representative on the Conservation Commission will run concurrently with her term on the planning board, which expires at the end of June 2025, and at which time she could be reappointed. So right now, I'm looking for a motion to approve the appointment of Gail Ober as the planning board representative to the Conservation Commission for a term expiring at the end of June 2025. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. That 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. 21E has already been taken care of. Moving on to 21F, which is a request from the City Council to the Planning Board regarding amendment of Chapter 235 the City Code zoning. Kirk, would you walk us through this, please?
Yeah, this is related to unsafe structures, burned out, dilapidated, uninhabitable buildings that we've been working, the fire chief had been working for quite a long time now on a new ordinance. We brought it to our attorneys. They reviewed it, they liked it, but they said you're way overcomplicating it. Adding language to the zoning ordinance is all we really needed to do. And we'll be able to take care of, these structures that, it'll give us teeth to enforce remediation or tear down. So you'll see on here, there's a bolded unsafe structures there. I'm looking to send that to the planning board, a letter to the planning board on your behalf, requesting that they review it. They will have to review it, have a public hearing, and then vote whether or not they want to see that go through. If they do, it'll come back to you for a subsequent public hearing and a vote to accept this. If that happens, it'll go into the ordinances.
Question, Mr. Mayor? What's the teeth behind this? If somebody says no, is there some teeth in here?
Yeah, it'll be
about
like any of our other zoning ordinances. It certainly has to go through legal and in courts, but it does give us the ability to enforce as though we would any other zoning laws.
this? Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, right now I'd be looking for a motion to move to authorize the city manager to send a letter to the planning director and planning board requesting initiation of an amendment to code chapter 235 zoning regarding unsafe structures as presented. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 21G, which is our Veterans Tax Credit for Service-Connected Total Disability. I'm going to turn this over to you again, Kirk, just to walk us
Yep,
through this,
this
even
is-
though it's something we've discussed before?
Yep, this is our tax credit for veterans who are totally and permanently service-connected disabilities. By RSA, we're allowed to go up to $4,000 in tax credits. Currently, we're at $2,000. Conversation at a previous council meeting requested that we bring this forward as an increase to $3,000, and that's what this increase would do. It would add about $47,000 in tax credits to the community.
Move it. Let's go.
So we have a series of 3 motions right now. First one is a motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-03, Veterans Tax Credit for Service-Connected Total Disability in its entirety, and to read by title only, so made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
All
was
those in
voting.
favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Now we need a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2024-03, Veterans Tax Credit for Service-Connected Total Disability. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes as well. Finally, on this matter, looking to move, motion to move to schedule a public hearing on February 26, 2024, during the regular city council meeting regarding Resolution 2024-03, Veterans Tax Credit for Service-Connected Total Disability, to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes as well. Item number 21-8. Resolution 2024-04 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $13,888.88 from the Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of a SWAT SOU equipment for the Laconia Police Department. The city has applied to the New Hampshire Department of Safety for grant funding in the amount of $13,888.88 to purchase the SWAT SOU equipment through the Homeland Security Grant Program. The entire cost of this equipment is covered by the Homeland Security Grant. There is no local match requirement. This was submitted by Detective Peter Horan of the Laconia Police Department, recommending the approval of this grant acceptance. So right now, we've got a series of 3 motions. The first is to move motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-04 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2024-04 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $13,888.88 from the Department of Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of SWAT SOU equipment for the Laconia Police Department. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on February 26th, 2024, during the regular city council meeting for Resolution 2024-04 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $13,888.88 from the Department of Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of SWAT SOU equipment for the Laconia Police Department to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Moving on to Agenda 21I. Acceptance of a 2024 New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Aquatic Plant Control Grant. DES Exotic Species Program has notified us that the city of Laconia has been awarded a grant to fund up to 50% of project costs for aquatic plant control remediation in Paugus Bay. This project has been awarded in the past, as we know. New Hampshire DES works with the city departments to identify locations for plant control to be completed, hires the contractors to complete the work, and returns for post-remediation testing. The city's share of this grant is $54,435, which is 50% of the total of the remediation. $45,000 of this has been approved in the fiscal year 2024 budget. The remainder of the match will come from the administration non-departmental budget. Okay. Once again, we have a series of 3 motions here. First is to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-05 in its entirety to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a first reading of 2024-05 relative to acceptance of the 2024 New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Exotic Aquatic Plant Control Grant in the amount of $54,435. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. Did you vote on, all right, you're good with that? Yeah. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on February 26th, 2024, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to adoption of Resolution 2024-05. So made by Counselor Bogert, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. 21J, the Pumpkin Festival, we've already discussed. We're moving on to item number 22A under unfinished business. This is in regards to restrictions on display of permissible fireworks. Might there be a friendly amendment here to move the July 3rd from,
10 PM to 12 midnight.
Can I comment on that, sir?
please do.
I think 10 PM is in line with our disturbing the peace hours, which is 10 PM. So
Yeah.
I think that's why we went with 10 PM.
Yes, no, that's correct. That's why that was chosen.
What are your thoughts
So-
on it, Kirk? Well, go right ahead. Go
So
ahead.
if we go later, we still have an ordinance it's noise, so it's gonna be, they're gonna call for the noise. It's gonna be irrelevant if
If I may, I think if you just table it, we can work out some of those details that didn't come up if so inclined.
Okay, so, no,
I'm
so,
going for government ordinances. The list keeps growing. Thank you. We'll take care of that, Mayor.
Can I say something?
please do.
I know we were gonna vote on just amending some of the language to this, but I just wanted to state my opposition to this entirely. I think, restricting people's liberty on their personal property is something that should be done, with great care and at great need, and I just don't think that this ordinance really needs to exist. To, Representative St. Clair's point, I think the police department has better things to do than to chase vacationers around all summer because they're lighting off fireworks. It's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
If I might, the flip side of that, having been in law enforcement, I can tell you that if at 1 o'clock in the morning, somebody's lighting off firecrackers next to your house, you suddenly,
They do.
and maybe you're all right with it, but I can introduce you to thousands of folks who ain't too happy. I don't disagree that we ought to think about moving it ahead, dealing with the other concerns we have, but to totally ignore the fact that fireworks can be pretty annoying, I think would also be.
Yeah, and that goes to the disturbing the peace part, PTSD, animals, and having it every night of the week.
Thank
It's one thing to have it on the weekends and the holidays, which is what this outlines, but there's been problems with people doing them every single night.
And the other issue would
And it's
be,
not just your private property.
I understand. I mean, this is a vacation community, right? You know, to a degree. So I think you have people coming up here in the summer, maybe from states where fireworks aren't legal. You know, we have local firework businesses. I just think restricting it.
but the other problem you're gonna have, as indicated, if we don't have a fireworks ordinance, then the noise ordinance will take precedence. And so either way, there's gonna have to be something done. And Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to table.
Motion's to table and non-debatable.
Second.
Is there a second by Counselor Cheney? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Item has been tabled. perhaps send this item along to government ordinances for some further discussion and refinement, and maybe someday it comes off the table.
It was.
It's only been a year.
It was close.
It's already been voted on.
This
except
is the
for-
last item on our agenda. I will request that we go into non-public session briefly. I know it's been a long night. I appreciate your patience. We're not doing it quite yet. When we come out of non-public session, we will, it'll be simply to adjourn the meeting. No additional business will be taken up, except the sealing of the minutes of the non-public session. So, the last item on our unfinished business agenda is item number 22B, Resolution 2024-01, Elderly Tax Exemptions. Kirk, would you be so kind as to walk us through this a bit?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And we also have our assistant assessor here with us. Has been here all night tonight. So if there are any specific questions, she'll be able to help us out or help you out with. These are a couple of changes that we haven't made in a number of years. One of them is in the income limits, changing the single income limit and the merit income limit to 30,000 and 43,000 respectively. This allows you to qualify, one of the qualifying factors for the exemptions, and these are your assets other than the home you live in. And as things get more expensive and you have a higher cost of your stuff, people aren't necessarily qualifying for these elderly exemptions like was intended. Also with the that'll also change the this ordinance, this resolution will also change the age-based valuation reduction, so 65 to 74, 75 to 79, and 80 or above has a valuation reduction. That's what the exemption will do for you if you qualify. And we've changed that from 50,000 to 60,000, 65,000 to 75, and 85,000 to 95,000 based on those years' range. Estimating that it would change our taxable revenue approximately $70,000 if these were all implemented as they sit right now. And it has been, we've went back, it's been a number of years since any of these were meaningfully changed.
Is there a way we can ensure that these numbers get reviewed on a more regular basis?
Yes, yeah, some of these, yes, some of these don't get reviewed as often as they should, unless someone brings it to our attention, which is what triggered this. They came to my office, they came to the assessing office and said, hey, what about us?
Counselor Susie?
What is do you know what the federal poverty level number is for single and married?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's like $15,000 or something.
Okay.
Not married, I think
I
it's
just wanted to make sure at least we're
13 or 15,000. I think it's
past
pretty,
that. Okay,
pretty low. Yeah.
I qualify.
Any further questions for the city manager? Okay, so we have a brief series of 3 motions here. The first is motion to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-01, elderly tax exemptions, and its entirety to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2024-01, elderly tax exemptions. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2024-01, a resolution relative to tax exemptions for the elderly. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Bogart. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. That concludes our formal agenda this evening. We'd like to make a request that we move into non-public session according to RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, which is consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property which, if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. We've got to take a roll call on that, too? Someone's got to make that? I never get this. I'm so remedial in this, okay? Call the roll, please.
No, we need a counselor to make the motion.
Oh,
I'll make the motion.
Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Bogart.
And did we say what letters?
Sure. D,
D.
baby D.
All right. I roll call. Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Okay, we're now in non-public session. I've asked Warren to stay for just a minute. Anybody need a break, use lavatory or something?
To end this.
Yeah, and then turn off the machines and